Hello.
Hi, glad you guys made it on time. I had a number of people who accepted this meeting, but just let's give them a couple of minutes. How did you find this week's material? Is it too much?
Hey, actually, to be very honest, I haven't had time to look at some material this week, but I intend to do it today.
Okay, cool. That's all good. Sometimes, we can be time poor, and I completely understand. And I have we have a few people coming in. It's awesome. Hi, Swati. Hi, Christy, Shane.
Hi.
Bishu and Shun Singh, hello. I was just asking, how did you find this week's material? Is it too much? It was okay. Could you do the exercises? I know some of you have shared something which I have responded. I do take my time to respond, but I do respond. And so I hope you guys get to read the response as well. So how did you find this week?
Interesting.
Interesting. Interesting is when you don't know what to say, isn't it? Like, how
No,
sometimes when you say about your research and everyone and the response will be interesting. Because you just have no idea what you're talking about.
no,
So,
because like some of the stuff I've done before in previous lives, so it's refreshing. And just the whole goal setting thing is I sort of know about it, but I've never really done it. I've
mm.
managed to get through life without going, "This is my goal," and I'm really I'm really impressed when I read to people like they go, "Oh, I want to be a pilot," and then they just become a pilot. Like 19, they're a pilot. Me,
Mm, mm.
I've just cruised through life. I think that's my nature.
There you go.
And I've done lots of things, and I talk to people that, oh yeah, goal set. Oh, that's really impressive. When I tell them about my career, they go, oh, that's really impressive. So it's interesting.
Yes. I think sometimes, we have our goals, we have our ambitions, but then sometimes life throws you some kind of an opportunity that may not be your initial ambition or direction that you were thinking of, and then it just takes you in a different pathway, and how open you are to take that on board as well.
And that's what happened with my
Saying,
PhD. It's the same thing. Suddenly the
yeah.
opportunity was there, and I've gone, oh, I'm going to take that.
Yes. And Sisha has also shared that emotional intelligence seems not so simple to learn. Yeah, because you're talking about intelligence here. So it is a lot of effort there. And, just like whatever, however we want to pursue our knowledge and acquire new knowledge, it's always challenging to start with. But once you learn the technique and the tips and the strategies to actually move forward, and then you'll be surprised how much you have achieved. You'll be surprised to revisit your own life to see what you could have done and what do you want to do next. So it's a kind of it's like a never-ending lifelong learning, of yourself and your space and your thinking, your thought process, and how it is actually helping you to move forward, but how it also stops you from moving forward. Sometimes we have sabotaging thoughts as well, isn't it? Do you agree? Like, sometimes you're doing something, but then it's you yourself will sabotage. Like, that can't be right. That can't be true. It's too good to be true. And you'll be saying, you start doubting yourself. You start feeling that imposter syndrome, and you start feeling that, the fear of failure. Like, am I going in the right path? So you start questioning yourself, where even though you're achieving your milestones, but you start this type of negative thinking and thought process can actually sabotage your own movement moving forward. Sometimes, how many of you heard of this mini voice? Has anyone heard of that mini voice? It's like,
I've heard of it, and I try to
yeah,
keep her in the cage.
it is like, when you're thinking like, something and you want to do something, and then you have this voice in your head saying, don't do it. Don't. or do it, that little voice. So that's why we call it the mini voice, because the big voice is what you hear externally and what you tell yourself. But there's just this little voice inside your head that sometimes stops you. And that's why we call it as mini voice, because that's the little child, the little girl, the little the experience that that child has had before, and may have got herself hurt, may, have not achieved what she wanted to achieve. So the voice is trying to protect you from getting hurt. So you have this, like, little voice telling you, don't do that, you're going to fail, don't do that, it's not going to work, so that is trying to protect you in the name of love and protection. But it is the little girl, based on the little girl's experience. So that's when you have to say, okay, thank you, now go and have some fun. So which means if the mini voice is actually trying to interfere with your adult life and decision making, you just have, that means you're lacking some kind of fun in your life. This is like, I'm saying this because I've worked that many hours with that many people around the world, where this is like a pattern. It's like when you start listening to the mini voice, not the adult voice, it's based on the mini voice's experience. Then what you're doing, it's just like you're not having enough fun in your life. That little child inside you, you don't want to kill it. We all grow, but you don't want to kill the child, the curiosity, the fun, the child that doesn't think of the consequences, but just purely want to have fun. Sometimes when you lack that in life, when you're so focused in this adult lifestyle, where of course we all are adults a lot, but sometimes you just want to sit and do some coloring. You just want to, how many of you, like, go to a playground and you see the swing and you just want to go sit on the swing and swing for a while? And, and sometimes, you just want to paint or color or do something like a childlike activity. When you start engaging with that, the mini voice will go like, yeah, I need to have fun. I'm having fun here, and I will not interfere when you're making adult decision, when you're sitting there making some crucial decisions and critical thinking. You don't want this child to be there. The child has been entertained. Does it make sense? It's a big thought process. I have shared this with many clients, and it has worked. So next time you go to a playground, like go past a playground in the park, just go on the monkey bar, go on that slide. My size, I think I wouldn't dare, but swing at the monkey bar. Sometimes it does wake up some sort of a fun and a lively, not thinking too much, not thinking about like, oh, what others are going to say, just have that little fun. Okay, just a tip that I wanted to share. I always want to ride on swings, but also worry I'm too big for one. I'll go find one. I'm sure there are some swings that you can fit, so I love swinging. I can't help myself when I see a swing. Unless there's a child there, and I'll be just like, get off, I want to get on it. Like sometimes you can't tell them, but that's what I think in my head. So this week, we talked about self-management. How many of you had challenges, like, in terms of whether you, like, differentiating the have to, need to, want to, and or even thinking in that process, in that direction? Yeah, use the flat one. Don't worry, you can write. Okay. Sisha is sending. You guys can look at the chats, right? Because some hi, sharing. I have kids. Playing with my kids in a playground is a good excuse that I can enjoy my childhood game. Yeah, that's what I did. Like whether my son enjoyed it or not, I love taking him to the playground because I wanted to play. So yeah, I get that. All right. So so in terms of, understanding your outcome, visualizing, I talked about chunking models. Is there anything that you want to ask, any questions, any challenges you had in understanding how you process that? Because I want to share another tip as well. Another strategy I meant, before I go further. I'm sure you guys have heard about the SMART goals. It's just, so common, but I just wanted to, I gave that extra thinking way, a strategy with the chunking model, looking at the bigger picture, looking at the smaller task that goes within the bigger picture. So how many of you have done that or understand or find it challenging?
I used to do this at work all the time because of the workload I had.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a question of just prioritizing and trying to work out, because I'd be getting requests from numerous engineers, and it was a case of sorting out the priorities. and then working through it and going, okay, right, I've got to get this out of the way type stuff, and naturally determine what was the urgent, what was the important. And sometimes it was just, I just had to go back and say, oh, what was I used to say? I'll get it ready for you shortly. And if they said to me, oh, you said you get it ready shortly, I said, wait till you hear longly.
Longly. Okay. I like that. I love your sense of humor, I have to say, Christy, even with what you share. And if we begin with the environment, does it contradict with the open mind? I like that question, Sishu, because the thing is that when we begin with the end in mind, it is like, so it means we have a big goal. We know how is it going to look like, how is it going to feel like. So we start there. But when it comes to achieving that goal, the path that you're taking, the direction you're taking, I'm sure there's going to be, some smooth rides, there's going to be some obstacles, so that's where we call the behavioral flexibility. How flexible you are in engaging into all of that challenges to achieve the final goal. But let's say if you think the final goal shifts and it changes, like, sometimes, people go like, I want to do my master's. So their big goal was master's. And then halfway through their master's, they go like, I want to upgrade it to PhD. And some people, they'll completely change. So now their milestone has gone even further. Something they thought they can achieve in 2 years, now it's going to be another 3 years. So all of that means it's like it's allowing you to grow. As long as your ultimate goal is letting you to be who you want to be and how you're going to achieve it, it's definitely the pathway that you're taking. I'm taking a longer cut. Yeah, we all do. That's why we're doing PhD, isn't it? Like, oh, it's not a fun journey, but we all want to do this and we all have done it. And some of you, may have already achieved it. Is knowing that it's a tough journey. Like, who says, oh, I had a smooth ride with my PhD? Like, I've not met a single person who said like, oh, it was a smooth ride. It was so easy. I finished it exactly on time. On time, yeah, some people do, but it's just like nobody says that it was the best thing that could have, there's so many hurdles, there's so many challenges, and like a number of drafts that you send, a number of, by the time you submit your 100,000 words, you're actually in that 4 years, you're writing about 400,000 words, right? Like that many gets canceled out, that many get thrown out, chucked out, and then you have to rewrite. There's so much of challenges. But why do we do that? Because of big why, the highest intention in wanting to achieve. Sometimes, I'm in the last few laps and I feel when I feel really exhausted, I'll just close my eyes and then I'll start thinking about my graduation ceremony. Like, what am I going to wear? Like, what color do I want to wear? Do I want to be traditional? Do I want to be modern? Sometimes, having that kind of visualization just keeps me wanting to get through this. Like, I'm going to run one more lap before I end the day today. So I visualize it as it's like a marathon that I'm running, and I'm in the last, the big leg, that kind of thing. So you can actually visualize it. And sometimes you just want to close your eyes and see yourself running. Look at the marathon runners, 42 kilometers. Why do they do that to themselves? I have a friend of mine, she's 50 plus, right? And she started running marathons when she was 50. And now she does, and she runs like 4.5 hours, 4 hours. And I'm kind of like, why do you do that to your body? And then she says, why do you want to do that to your brain doing this PhD? So and then I said, yeah, true. Then she said, even if you give me $1 million, I wouldn't want to do a PhD. And then he asked me, I said, even if you give me $1 million, I wouldn't want to run 42 kilometers, So it is how we are shaped in our life and what means to us. Like, running means a lot to her. Her big why is to achieve that, whichever goals that she wants to achieve. And mine was this. And we are all different. We are all different beings in this world. And we are meaning-making machines as well. So we start adding meaningful thought process to why we do what we do. And when the intention becomes high enough, when your big why I keep saying big why, the small whys are the ones that gives you excuses. Why can't I get my thesis done? Why can't I achieve this? Why can't I get my data collection done? So all that, little excuses, defense and judgment, judgments that you give yourself, that's a small why. The big why is where your big purpose is. Like, what means so much to you, how it means, and then what do you need? So that's why we always say, Who do you want to be? And in order to be that person, what do you need to do now? Yeah, does it make sense? Any questions, guys? You guys are very quiet. You know, the last couple of years when I've been running this, we couldn't finish it in an hour because everybody has got so much to share. You guys are really quiet people. So is there anything that you want to share or ask? I know, there's one question. Okay, while you're thinking, let me know if you have. There are people, there's a question I asked in the poll, right? What aspect of your life would you like to focus on in setting a goal? Because sometimes, we have goals, like short-term goals, long-term goals, like something that I want to achieve it like today, something in this week, something by this month, the short goals and then long-term goals. But sometimes I also think about, okay, I've got all these goals for my PhD, all these goals for my, the modules that I'm running or the work that I'm doing. But what about other goals? Like, am I ignoring some aspect of my life? So that's where I made you guys to look at all the different types of goals, like identify the different types of goals. You have academic goals, but then do you have personal goals? Do you have social goals? Do you have research goals? So you can actually divide your life into different aspects so that you live your life completely. And I'll share with you something soon. So when I asked that question, so one aspect of your life, 37, the first highest one was 37% showed that self-improvement and personal growth. That was the area they were focusing on setting a goal. And then the second one was 35% with career and professional development. And then it dropped down to the third one, 22%, where it was health and fitness. And then the fourth one was 4% on personal relationship and social connections. And then the last one was 2% on financial stability and success. Okay. But when I did the same thing for a corporation, for an organization, it was the other way around. The last one with the 2% financial stability and success was right on the top because everyone was just so career minded, career driven, like how do I going to get there? How do I get to the top thing? Where do I go? So that was the top one. And then when I did the same thing for a health organization with, like a retreat kind of a set up, it was health and fitness was right on the top. When I, looked at people who are more interested in the self-development, the NLP, that kind of thing, for them was the self-improvement and personal growth. You see how even in a different setting where you are right now can actually shift how you think and what you're focusing on. So therefore, when you're setting your goals, ask yourself, what goals are you focusing right now? And do you need to look at other areas of life that you haven't focused for a while? Because sometimes, when you're so bogged down in life with one direction and you ignore everything else, and then you get to this direction and you turn back, no one is there. Yeah. So that's why you need to really measure. Uh, no social goals. I have no friends, Christy. There you go. There's some area to look at now. So that's really important. And then when you set the goal, it's not about just like, oh, I have a goal to finish my PhD. Sometimes it's like, why? Why do you want PhD? Why, like after all these years, you want to do a PhD, and what is that going to get you? What is it? What is it that you want to achieve? Is it the title of being a doctorate, or is it more than that? So what is it that you want to achieve? So get that across and visualize that. Who do you want to be and how are you going to present yourself? And is anything going to shift? Like I'm going to be still center, but something is going to shift in me because it's going to give me a credibility in saying what I'm saying in that area of expertise that I'm working on, right? So this is how you want to be able to differentiate like who you are, what hat are you wearing, and how you're going to be. Yeah. But when I'm a mother or when I'm a friend, when I'm in my social circle, I don't want to be a doctorate. I just want to be a normal person. Because there was one meme, they said that meme, it was a joke, I think. They said that the biggest group who will actually be sarcastic towards you, it's like, in a trivia or any social environment when you can't answer a question, they go like, oh, look, you're a doctor and you can't even answer this question. They expect you to be an expert in everything just because you're a doctorate. So your friends are the one who will say that to you, or your family, right? So they are the one who will find every opportunity to put you down sometime. But then how do you live up to that? Who are you being in that moment so that it is not about your title or your qualification, it's about who you are? The hat you're wearing at the time, the hat, yeah, it really depends on the hat, because I realized that when because I do a behavioral study, I look at behavioral profiling and behavioral study, and I have a lot of clients. When I started, when I go to a friendly social environment, I realized that my friends network became uncomfortable because they were afraid that I was profiling them. They were afraid that I'm going to judge them, or they were afraid I'm going to criticize on what they do or how they think. But what I do, I switch my head. Like, I'm not going to wear that hat. I'm wearing a friend's hat, and I don't care even if you say anything that is against what I believe, because this is you and you're my friend, and I'm just going to accept it unless you seek help, unless you want to know something that, can you help me? Can you tell me, am I doing something wrong? I will not use my coach's hat in a social environment. Does that make sense? Yeah. You don't want to be a mentor to people who are not seeking mentorship from you. So that's the kind of thing you got to go. Like, in your PhD environment with your peers, and your research environment with your colleagues, and your, personal environment, and who you are when you just remove all the hats and it's just you. Who are you being at that moment, and are you happy with that? Yeah. So that's one thing. And also, sometimes, you ask yourself, why, is this the best thing for me to do right now? Am I pushing myself? Am I putting other areas of my life at risk by doing this? Like, sometimes, there are people where there can be health issues. There could be some kind of a health issue. There could be issues with family where relationship could be suffering because you're so focused on doing what you're doing, you kind of ignore, neglect the relationship. So are you going to lose all these just because you want to focus on this? So how do you balance that? So ask yourself, is this the best thing you're doing right now? Not that you have to give up your ambition or goal, but how do you balance that? What is important to you? Sometimes, I realize that when I get so busy with my businesses or my work or everything, what I do, it is like, it's not about how much time I spend with my family. It's like what kind of quality time. So I may not be with them for the whole day, but even if I'm with them for 3 hours, we're going out for lunch or we're going out for a drive, I am totally present with them. So that means at that point, I'm not going to sit there and worry about things that I should be getting done. So when I change my head, right? So you don't want to be like, I'm with family and all I'm thinking is like, I should be writing my chapter, right? And then when you're writing a chapter, you don't want to be thinking, oh, I should be with my family. I'm just not being a good mom now or a good wife now. So you don't want to do that. You've got to be present 100% and spend that quality time, even if it's 2 hours, even if it's 1 hour. Sometimes me and my son will just sit and watch some funny comedies because we're both time poor. Like, he works and he's on research as well. So we both, sit and watch some kind of a comedy and a couple of episodes, just have a bit of a laugh and talk and da da da, and then we just disperse to our own work. But the time that we have spent means a lot. That means he knows that I'm not neglecting this because I'm too busy. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. You guys are not going to ask me anything or not even going to say anything.
I gotta say,
This is a Q&A. It's not a lecture.
we Q&A between me and you.
I know. I'm kind of like assuming this is what you want to know, and I'm just talking away, and I just don't know whether I'm just being there. Don't profile me. No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not wearing that hat now. I'm just here to share my knowledge on emotional intelligence. You had some such good slides. Oh, thank you, Karen. I've got another one today. I was going to match the color, but I didn't. But let me see. I'm going to share the slides. This is desktop 3. Okay, cool. Share. Okay. Right. So I'm not going to enlarge this because you know what happens when I enlarged it? Can you see? Can you guys see this? It's big enough, yeah? Yeah. Because you know why? When I put a slide mode, all my 3 computers is full of that slide. It's just like I can't see anything else. So that's what I was going to do. No. Go here. Okay. So when it comes to this whole thing about the have to, need to, want to, there could be a positive side of it. There could be a negative thing. Have you heard about pain versus pleasure? Moving towards pain or moving towards pleasure? Have you heard of that? Yeah. Sometimes we are all achieving, like we could be achieving this goal, right? Let's say I want to be fit. And so if I'm walking towards fitness in a positive way, I'm moving towards pleasure. So I'm telling myself, I want to be fit. And in order to be fit, why do I want to be fit? My big goal, it's just like so I can travel comfortably in the flight because the seats are getting smaller and smaller, even though I'm not getting bigger and bigger, but I feel like the seats are getting smaller and smaller in the flights. I don't know whether you agree or not. I just find it so annoying. And they're changing all the 2 seats now, becoming 3, 3, 3, and 3, 4, 3. And, it's just becoming just squeezy. So I want to travel comfortably, especially when I sit with another large size person. I find it really hard to even have my meals, so that is one reason. Another reason is I want to be able to travel a lot more. That includes a lot of walking, which I'm finding it really challenging because of my spinal issue. And I want to be able to do that, right? Okay, now I raise something here. So one, the positive thing is I want to be able to walk comfortably, travel comfortably. But the negative way, like moving away from pain, it is like, moving towards pain, same goal, but I'm doing it because I feel like in a few years' time, I may not be able to walk as much because of my spinal issues. You see what's driving me there? Do you see the difference? One drive, it is like, I want to do this because of the pleasure that I want to enjoy. But the other drive is I want to do this before I get too sick. Which just doesn't make sense, does it? So it does make sense, but what happens is it's like a negative gearing that pushes you to the same goal. But what then happens is, because your mindset is with the pleasurable thinking, the positive mindset, there's then always this urge to get up and do the right thing to get what you want to get and achieve what you want to do. But when you're driven by the negative gearing, even though you will, but when you get there, you don't appreciate it as much because you find it so hard, so challenging. It is like, oh, finally I got here. So what's next? The kind of exhaustion that takes over you, and so that's why both are moving you, but one is chasing you. So what it is like, I always say, for example, like my son, it was a national open water swimmer. And so while he was not doing so well on the pool, he did extremely well. Like first swim, he made it straight to national. So I was just thinking, like, how come he can swim so fast? I didn't realize that he could swim so fast, right? But then when he came out, he said, like, I was so scared in there because it was so dark. There was no lanes, there's nothing. It was just like an open water. It was so scary. And there was jellyfish fighting. And then people were kicking away. And so he was so scared that he swam so fast to get out of there as soon as possible, right? He made it to nationals. One swim, his coach was like top of the world. So but the thing is that he achieved his goal, making it to the nationals. But look how he did it. It was not the positive, I need to win this. I need to get through this. I want to swim my best. I want to get the best PB. It wasn't that was driving him. What really drove him was the jellyfish, that everyone kicking and, hitting him. He came out bleeding, like as if he went for a boxers fight or something, right? And the fact that he was scared to be in that ocean. So that was what driving him. He achieved his goal, but he was exhausted. He couldn't even feel the celebration. I said, Shivin, you made it to nationals. He's got like, oh yeah. It was not giving him that kind of, yeah, I made it, jump in the sky, nothing. It was like, oh, okay. So he was already thinking about, oh, which means I have to swim in a bigger ocean. I have to go to Adelaide and I have to swim in a bigger ocean, that kind of thing. So he was using the negative gearing. He was not enjoying the process. He was not enjoying the journey of achieving something. He finished top 5 eventually, but he was eventually with the Australian nationals. But the thing is that it's only the last time when he started enjoying it. When he did for the global series and the world swim series and all that, he started enjoying it because this didn't mean a lot. So I had to tell him, Shavin, sometimes you got to think that shark is chasing you. Maybe you'll finish with a better time, kind of thing. And so you see, that negative gearing creates a sense of exhaustion. So that's why, when I say I have to do this, that means I have to meet the deadline. And by meeting this deadline, I'm going to get to the next level. I'm going to write the next chapter. So I'm going to be, achieving my goals or moving towards my goal. But then there's also, the things that I need to do. Or I need to cook today, or I need to clean this, or I need to wash the clothing, then this thing. So there's a bit of that necessary things that needs to get done. But then there are also other things that I want to do. I want to catch up with my family. I want to watch this little series that I'm watching or something like that. So it gives me the balance of that I'm doing everything that I have to do, I need to do, I want to do because it meets my bigger goals of who I'm being. But the negative thing is like, oh, I have to cook. I can't stand cooking, or I have to clean, that kind of thing. Even before you start the work, even before you write the chapter, you will start feeling that exhaustion. The negativity will actually pull your energy level down. And when your energy level goes down, that's why you see some people, they were just ticking their goals happily, versus there are people who struggle so much. They're still ticking the goal, but they feel the struggle. Does that make sense? Can you guys relate with that? Have you been in that situation before?
Many, many times.
Sorry?
Many, many, many times.
Yeah. So when you are in that situation, right? When you suddenly feel exhausted even before you start, like, sometimes when I start work at 9, I'm already like thinking like, is it lunchtime yet? That kind of exhaustion, like you feel when you're starting out and then you're already feeling exhausted. Sometimes I'll stop and I'll just go like, okay, what am I thinking? Santa, what are you thinking? Like, why are you exhausted even before you started? And that's because I'm putting everything under the have to. I want to finish my chapter versus like, I have to finish my chapter. So do I want to make that into a want? Do I want to make that as a desire to get it done? Another way of looking at it, it's like, it's what I have done. It's really looking at the top 3 goals instead of having a to-do list, right? How many of you have like a checklist? I got to do this. How many of you have that? Yeah. Okay, Shane. Okay, hi.
Never, never for me.
I mean sometimes, right? Like sometimes I plan things or do this, but I end up never following them.
Yeah, I know, right?
And
Okay.
like like the thing you said earlier, for me, I don't have an issue with the energy per se all the time, but I always have an issue with the amount of time that I take. So sometimes I'll plan like, okay, I want to wake up, eat breakfast, make lunch, pack the lunch, and then put it in my bag and then go.
Mm.
And I'll think it takes a certain amount of time, but I end up taking way longer to do it. Because
Yes.
I don't know how much time I will take to do it. Like for some reason, I take way longer than I'm supposed to. So it's like a whole other issue.
Because sometimes you take longer because, maybe if you don't know how to do it, or is it taking longer because you're already feeling exhausted thinking about doing all these chores?
I'm like constantly thinking about all kinds of things.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just
it. Because you know why? You're not, it's like instead of putting your brain into what you want to focus for today, you're actually thinking too many things that is actually creating a mental exhaustion. So when you're exhausted, you're not going to get focused and you're not going to get things faster. Sometimes when you're so focused, you are able to do things and get it done, right? But when you're driven by so many reasons and so many excuses and so many justification of why you need to do what you need to do in a kind of the small whys, forgetting the big why, that's why you feel exhausted. Yeah. And so that's why I came up with this plan, which worked with a lot of my clients as well. It is like instead of having to-do lists, because you see our brain, right? It's funny how our brain processes some words. Instead of saying, I want this, people actually will say, I don't want this. How many times you have people who go like, how do you find that taste? Is that food good? Or, is this good? And instead of saying, yeah, that was good, people will say, oh, not bad. What do you mean not bad? Why can't you say good? When it's not bad, it has to be good, right? See what they're focused on. So what I did, it is like, instead of having a million things to do, you have a done list. So my list, even if you buy a pad that says to-do list, cancel the to-do and put that done. Okay, get your brain to actually experience the feeling of getting it done rather than to do. Because whenever you say to do, the list never ends, right? Because you're saying to do. That means the future. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I got to do this. I have to do this. I need to do this. So the list just keeps growing and growing and growing because it's not seeing the feeling of getting it done. So do it this way. Practice it this way. You start writing a done list, but then have some goals. Like you can have a top 5 goals per week. That means in this week, I want to be able to do my what do you call that? My chapter 2. Okay. So my chapter 2 will be done as at this date or before, because I'm seeing it completed. I'm seeing that end date, right? Even sometimes, if cooking, personal goals, right? If I'm doing cooking, so I'll go like, okay, I'm gonna put myself between 2 to 3 hours to get this many dishes done. And if let's say in that 2 to 3 hours, if my 3 dishes are not done, then I'll reduce it to 2 dishes because I'm time poor. I just want to keep that 2 to 3 hours. How can I make it faster? What do I have to do to get it done faster? Right? So I'll plan like that. So one thing I also do is sometimes I'll wake up and I'll go, what are my top 3 goals? People tend to do it the night before. What my top 3 goals, like, how you plan the day before, that's what they usually suggest. Plan your day before, and then you wake up and you're ready to go. I have try to do both, try both ways. Sometimes I plan like for my week like on Sunday, like this week I want to achieve, I want to be able to finish all this, right? So I'll have my done list prepared on a Sunday. But my day-to-day one, I'll do it in the morning while I'm taking my shower, because the showering time, it's where you feel the sense of calmness. Water calms you down, right? Physically and mentally. So that's why when you get so agitated, drink a glass of water, splash water on your face, go take a shower. So the water actually makes you feel good. So what I do is like in my shower, I'll actually plan my top 3 goals for today. What are my top 3 goals? So when I have a top 3 goals, that top 3 goals has to meet my top 5 for the week or top 7 for the week, right? And then that top 5 or 7 will actually pick my monthly goal or my quarterly goals. Does that make sense? So I'm breaking it down. So my big goal is chunking up, but the big purpose, I want to get my final seminar done by this date. And then I've broken it down to smaller chunks. And I'll come down to top 3. So when you say top 3, there's only 3. That's easy done. But sometimes, if let's say I'm starting to write a chapter, I'm not going to have 3 goals for that day. I'll have 1 goal. I'll have a draft completed and submitted today for this chapter. So then it becomes your top priority for the day. Make sense? Does that make sense? So you're breaking it down. Then, this is another thing I do for my brain to get trained. When I'm listing my goal, I will always have 1 goal that I have already completed. Okay? I will actually write that goal and I'll put the tick right there. So your brain is already saying, I've done this and I've ticked it. Don't start a page where it's not completed, like everything is just not completed. Have something that is completed and tick it. Put a big tick there. Whether you do it online, so I even do it, use my Notion or whatever. So you do it online or you do it offline. Have something that you've already completed and tick it. So your brain will see that and go like, okay, can't wait for the next tick, can't wait for the next tick. So you will work towards ticking the next 3 goals. Does that make sense? So this is how the brain, they always say that focus on what you want rather than focusing on what you don't want. So sometimes if you want a good weather, focus on having a good weather. Don't say, I hope it's not going to rain. I hope it's not going to. How many times you have said that? I hope it's not going to rain. I'm not going to rain. And it will rain. Because what you have done, you're actually telling your brain and focusing on what you don't want rather than focusing on what you want. So instead of saying, I want to be happy, don't say, I don't want to be sad anymore. I don't want to cry anymore. I don't want to struggle anymore. You know, why are you languaging whatever you don't want instead of languaging what you want? Because what you're saying to the universe is what you want to attract. So learn to language what you want to achieve rather than what you don't want in life, right? So some of you, like, I think Swati, you shared something that you need to find out. What is their need? Did someone say something? Like, you're saying that something that's going to cost you. And so even that, it's just like, why do I want to find out? What am I doubting myself on? Do I want to find out this? Is it important to me right now? Is that affecting me right now? Is it stopping me from achieving what I need to do sometimes? Is it based on someone else's judgment? Is it based on what I think it is? So is this something that I can just talk to someone who has some knowledge about it? So sometimes you can actually find ways to get the knowledge that you need or understanding that you need to see whether you need the next step. But by thinking about it, oh, I need to do this, I need to do this, which can actually put a lot of stress as well. So that's why a lot of people, they suffer from it. Like when I run my course, right? So I used to run courses like, stress management or anger management and things like that. And it's so funny, right? You want to get rid of your anger. You want to get rid of your stress. But people want to attend courses that says, how do you manage your stress? And I'm talking about how to get rid of it. And you want to learn how to manage it, which means you want to acknowledge that you're always going to be stressed, and you want to learn how to manage it. So you see, that language these are the people who walk around and everything is stressful for them because they're only learning how to manage it. They're not learning how to get rid of it. But if I say get rid of your stress as my title of the course, they wouldn't even want to attend. You know why? They just think that's impossible. Life is so stressful. There's so many factors that are stressing me. There's just no way I can get rid of it. So they believe in that. And that's what you don't want. There's there's a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And I'm going like, get rid of your fear and go for it. Just make it work. But then when they say feel the fear, people connect with that. Because yes, fear is always going to drive me. I'm going to validate that feeling and I'm going to keep going with it. So that's why these people can end up being stressed. So I'm not saying anything against the author, but I'm just saying these type of titles entice people to come towards you because they can relate with it, because they don't want to believe that this can be cured or this can be removed. They want to believe that this is who they are. So that's where I go, like, my friend, she said, oh, I'm diabetic. And I said, oh, I thought you're Sally. I didn't know you're diabetic. Like, why are you introducing yourself with like, I am? So you're creating any illness as your identity. Who you are is not, it's nothing to do with what you have, right? So what's your identity? Hold on to that identity that you want and you want to achieve, okay? Another thing, because you're not going to ask me any questions. Okay, and please stop me, okay? If you want to, I know I'm going to keep talking because I don't want to have a session where, all of us is sitting and staring at each other and ask, I'm waiting for questions. So that's why I come prepared with slides. What if I end up with quiet groups? But if you do have questions, put your hands up or, just tell me because I'm just looking at all of you. So please feel free to ask questions if you have any, okay? And okay, so the next one, it's like the decisions that we make in life sometimes can be challenging. Like, sometimes it's like, I have relocated in my life like about 4 times, I think, from Singapore to Adelaide, from Adelaide to Brisbane, from Brisbane to Melbourne, and then I'm back to Brisbane. So there's just a lot of movements in my life. And at one of the trip was actually was decided and requested by my son who wanted to move back to Brisbane. And so when the way me and my husband, we always function in making major decisions and big decisions in life. We always go, if I were to take myself 5 years from now, will I say, I wish I had done this? Or will I say, I'm glad I did it? Maybe a positive outcome, maybe it may not be a positive outcome, but the journey that got me where I am now, I'm glad I did it, or I wish I had. So when my son requested that, if we could move back, he actually measured that in 5 years' time. So there's a lot of time he goes, I'm glad I did request that because that's how he got to be who he is right now. So that kind of thinking, right? Sometimes it helps because sometimes you just have to stop in your busy world and look back. Where were you 5 years ago? And what were you doing at that time? And look at you now, how much you have achieved, how much you have grown, and how much you have moved forward. And then also sometimes we go like, if you think you haven't got where you wanted to be, what has stopped you? Were you standing on your way? Was it someone else? Was it your environment? Was it your commitments? What was it holding up? And if it was like, there were a lot of things that helped me. Like, I started my PhD like about 20 years ago that I couldn't finish. But I have no regrets on the fact that I had to wait for another 20 years to start on, doing something I really wanted to do. But then when I look back, this is like, if I did what I started off 20 years ago, I would be somewhere like up there. I would be a professor by now. Hey, like, I missed out on all that. I could have. But then I look back and what I have achieved in the last 20 years, I'm so glad that I did. I wish I had finished my PhD. I would have been professor by now is one thing. But I'm glad the journey that I took in the last 20 years and what I have achieved in all the hats I've been wearing, it is nowhere near that qualification that I would have got back 20 years ago. Does it make sense? So that's where it is like, if sometimes if you really look at what your life is unfolding, it will give you a sense of an achievement, some sense of accomplishment that will actually drive you forward to how you manage the next challenge in your life. Okay, so self-management this is how it is all measured with how you have done what you have done and being aware of where you may have gone wrong or may have really done well. Make sense? So this is one thing I like, life can be only understood backwards, but lived forwards, So when you go forward, that's what you're living. Your life is like moving forward, but every now and then stop and just go back and reflect on your life. And I do that. And every end of June, like end of financial year, I'll reflect on my business, on my income and, all of that, the financial side of my life. But also end of the year, I always reflect on how I have spent this year, what was the major big thing, and then what I want to do next year. So the next 2026 and the next 5 years, where do I want to be like, so like the bigger goals. And this type of managing and in planning and stuff, sometimes you go like you're playing your life and then something happens and everything gone. But at least I know I have planned. At least I know it's there. It's in the list. It is somewhere there that I know that it has to be ticked. And so there are some plans in life that didn't go according to plan, but I had that ability to plan that allowed me to plan other things in life as well and not taken aback when things are not going according to plan. It is like making use of that as an experience that's going to still move me forward to actually also allow me to be who I want to be. Okay. Another thing I wanted to share with you before we round off. Have you heard of Wheel of Life? No? Okay.
Not directly, no.
Nah. See, Wheel of Life, you know how when you're driving a car, when you look at the wheel, and I'll enlarge this bigger, okay? Can you see? So when you can actually Google this as well. I can send it to you. I'll put it on the announcement page. It is like Wheel of Life. It is like, when you're driving a car, or bicycle, the wheel has to be a proper wheel. It can't be in different shapes, right? So this is the Wheel of Life, a general one, where you have health, you have social life, your career, your finance, your family, your relationship, your personal development, your spiritual development. So all of this is your whole life. So what happens is some people are focused like this. See, the health, they got it up to here. All the way. They're focused very much on the health. Social life, halfway. Career, maybe slightly higher, 6. And then you have finance, still low, under 5. And then your family, like, family is first, right on the top here. But look at this wheel. It's not in circle. So when this wheel is not actually balanced, that's why sometimes you feel stressed. That's why when you feel sometimes exhausted, sometimes you don't feel like I'm fulfilling one aspect of my life, but everything else is suffering. I'm working so hard on this, but everything else is suffering. But I'm not saying don't work hard. Like you got to get that article done. You got to submit that article. You got to get that article published. You got to get that PhD done. All your research work, your commitment, it has to be done. But I'm not saying this is a day-to-day thing, but this is your life. If you really look at this year, we are in October, like, just blink and of eye, 2 months, less than 2 months, we're going to be what? About 2.5 months, we're going to have Christmas already. It's just that the year has gone so fast. So when you reflect, have you been living your life in every aspect of it? Or are you just focused? Yeah, I got my career done, ticked, I got my publishing. I actually have a similar thing like this for like your research life, articles, like a publishing, literature review, dissemination, like, conferences, someone actually was sharing, like you got 4 conferences lined up. Was that you, Amy? Like one of you was sharing, Amy wasn't here. Okay. So it is like, conferences and, writing the chapters, getting that appendix, references is definitely one big thing in my thing, like, getting the references right. So all of that, it's in my wheel of research. Then I also have the wheel of business. So I actually have different wheels, and I feel like, oh, I'm so focused on getting my, there was time that I got so focused in my confirmation document. I was just writing away all the document, but I didn't pay attention to my references or getting the figures and the tables and all of that. So, and then at the end, I felt like I was spending more time trying to get that across. So I feel like, okay, now what I'm going to do is just like, while I'm writing, I'm just going to get this one sorted so that I'm not going to spend a whole week trying to format that. So, so I learn from it, right? So I have a wheel of research, you have a wheel of life, and you have, I have my wheel of business, which is taking a break now because I just want to focus on my work and getting it done. So this is how you actually see why am I taking away the goals? I got my articles published. I got my research done. I'm working really well with my colleagues. I have my social life, but then I feel exhausted. I feel something is still not, 100%. I don't feel I have achieved much. Why do I feel like I'm just letting myself down? Just go and revisit. Is there something you're ignoring? Are you ignoring your health? Are you ignoring, spiritual is actually, you can actually design your own wheel of life, whichever that's important to you. And so am I not, doing something more spiritually, some meditation and some kind of a calming kind of stuff? Sometimes if, how many of you meditate? Does anyone meditate? How many of you find it challenging to meditate? Like close your eyes, when they say close your eyes and don't think of anything. When they say don't think of anything, the brain deletes the word don't, and then you're thinking about everything. Like, I need to buy bread, I need to get this, I need to call someone, I need to get this one. So your more thoughts come in because you're telling yourself don't do it, and that's what you want to do. Sometimes you don't have to meditate by sitting there, doing the breathing exercise, close your eyes. You don't have to do that, right? You don't have to always do that. You can actually meditate by doing things while you're cooking, while you're walking, while you're taking a shower, while you're going for a swim. You can actually meditate doing that. You can actually light up a candle and see how the candle is just going away, like kind of thing, just watching that candle. Those are all meditate. Because what you're doing is while you're cooking, you're focused on the cooking, then you stop thinking about everything else. Play some music and start cooking. That itself is therapy. That itself is a meditation. So I have done this with a lot of my clients before, like in retreats and things like that. It helps because it is like you'll be wondering. And another thing I would suggest, only suggestion, okay, you don't have to take it. You know how sometimes these days people want to be always developing their brain, but not giving it a break, right? You go on a driving and you want to listen to podcasts. You go for walking and you want to listen to podcasts or some audiobooks and this and that. You're always constantly stimulating your brain. just have a break, guys. Just listen to the nature, listen to the birds, listen to the road, the noise, the environment, So there's always something that's shutting your ears. Doesn't mean you're focused on that. It is actually shutting you off from something. And then you come home, you're physically tired because you've just done the walking, and then you're mentally drained because you've listened to so much of, insights about something, and you feel you're feeling empowered. But trust me, you'll crash by the end of the day because you are too empowered, like if physically and mentally. So sometimes you just need to have that a nice jog or a nice cycling or a nice walk and enjoy this space. Sometimes you can listen to music. I'm not saying don't listen to podcasts, do listen. But sometimes you want to have that balance. Like, if I'm reading so much today, if I'm learning so much today, and I'm going to go for a walk to take a break, and why am I still learning? Give it a break. Give that brain a break. So that's why I do coloring sometimes, not that I'm a great painter or anything. I like to do that because that gives me the space to just not think about anything because I'm just focused on what color I'm going to use next. And so those kind of thing gives you a mental break. And that mental break will actually energize you even more when you come back and go like, you know what, I'm ready to go now. Does that make sense? I keep asking make sense, but I'm not sure. So
I,
next,
I, I have the same thing. I'm a cabinet maker by trade, which can be quite repetitive. So one of my little happy spaces is to just go and work on making cabinets because
mm,
repetitive work is just I know how to do it, so I don't have to think about it.
mm,
So
mm.
it's just like just go and do it and make stuff, and you end up with something you've made. In my particular case, I'm making my rental house better. So I've got
Yeah,
lots of little jobs to do, and I just keep working away when I come home.
yeah, that's nice. Have some
And
hobbies.
previously, I was used to hate the fact that I had to walk up on, you go up on and set out the drill pattern for the mines. And it was like, oh man, this is such a painful. But in the end, I realized it's actually just a very nice walk early in the morning with the wildlife, and I used to enjoy it. And
Mm,
it's the attitude, change the attitude, and you can. And I think a lot of what you're saying is a lot of what is all the inputs we have from outside of us is influences how we think and behave.
yeah.
Like one of the things I thought about as you're talking is that people say, I'm sorry. And it's like,
Mm,
they keep saying, I'm sorry, just for getting in the way. It's like, don't apologize. You were there first. Why say you're
yes.
sorry type stuff? And you look at all the inputs coming from outside with the media and everything, and it's causing havoc with a lot of us. And
Mm,
that's the attitudes that people have is not is because it's gain knowledge. The aggro, the anger is
yeah.
because they've experienced it from other people. They think it is normal. It's a normal behavior without being told it's no, that's not right. I got a goddaughter whose dad used to shout at her all the time when she was young. So it's ingrained in her to shout back because she thinks that's normal behavior. So
Mm,
poor old mum and dad to struggle with her. Mind you, she is 13 going on 14, so there's that as well. But just ingrained like attitudes, and we see this in society today, and that's part of the problem.
absolutely. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Because it's important sometimes, as humans, sometimes we look for the external validation, which is actually sometimes can be good. That external validation, if someone appreciates you, validates what you do, how hard you're working, and all of that. But sometimes expecting it can lead to disappointment. And that itself is an energy draining feeling, right? So it is, we want to make sure that we have that, we do not expect someone else. It's like, these days, the culture, when you post something online, you want to see how many likes you get. So what are you waiting for? Like you want to share something, you've shared it. Why are you now judging what you share based on how many people have liked it or shared it or reposted it? So that expectation itself will let you down, and that will itself actually sabotage what your intention is. I know a lot of people read my post, but they don't necessarily react. Sometimes how the post is so good, and I read it and I'm going like, oh, that's great. But then I've got no time to actually respond because I could be in a space where I can read, but I'm not going to sit there and type my response. And so that doesn't mean I didn't acknowledge it. But then I don't want that person to be thinking because I didn't respond, they feel that they're not getting that validation. So that itself it's a big thing. And I'm so sorry. Actually, I didn't really read the comments that's on live. I hope you guys are reading. Are you guys also reading what's on the chat? Because we have a lot of, we chat just by chatting. Yes, Karen, I'm sorry. Adrenaline last week, you mentioned about different energies. Is this sort of similar? The different energies, like, with when it comes to DISC, is the energy types that we talk about, the DISC. But then when it comes to, I don't know what you're saying, similar in terms, which one you're referring to. So please let me know. I think I've missed the point. You shared this earlier. I'm a live tick. I'm a live TikTok. Christy. Okay. And then I have no specific. Okay, good. Enjoying the discussion. I'm glad you are. Yeah. So sometimes it's just like, what's bringing you, like, I've cut back on a lot of social media engagement, like me typing away kind of thing because of the phase that I'm going through right now. But my friends are going, are you okay? Even if I don't put a smiley face while I'm writing, they think that I'm not okay because their expectation is I always use a lot of emojis. And sometimes I have to say, guys, when I read your discussion, I want to share some emojis. I want to laugh at it. I want to put something else, but then it just gives you only one option to like it. So so having messages arrive in your phone and so releases hormones that are similar to yeah, sometimes, yeah, it can happen, isn't it? Sometimes it gives you that kind of a dopamine that you need to lift you up, but there's some messages are kind of like, so there's if you go to Instagram, there's this PhD guy, I think Dr. Fred or something, he puts a lot of memes about, the PhD life, and it is so funny. It is like if someone asks you, how's your PhD going? And then they show this baby face, like, almost crying and smiling at the same time. I'm not sure whether I'm allowed to share it, but if I could, I will share some memes for you guys. It is so funny, but it is so relatable because that's how I feel when some people ask me, how's your PhD going? And so sometimes, we send this amongst, groups, just to create a bit of a laughter, but also completely relatable. That's exactly what I'm going through myself, kind of thing. Permanent head damage. Yeah, that's what my husband sometimes says. Okay, so next week is going to be another week with value solicitation. Please follow the workbook and please go through, like, how I suggested it to be. A lot of people in the past have mentioned that it was the most challenging and the most, useful thing they have learned about value solicitation process. I've simplified it as much as I can. Please come along. Please encourage others to come along. Share your values, and then we can discuss about it. You will find it very interesting how this is done, the whole process, and you will actually gain a lot from this. Okay, so I look forward to seeing you all next week, and I hope there will be more people. And come prepared with some questions, guys. This is live Q&A. Okay, all right. So if I have not answered any questions, please, or if you have any other questions that you need some discussed privately, please feel free to email me and message me. I'm more than happy to respond to you. Okay, all right. Thank you, Christy. Bye.